Hello everyone, Flapjack Pants here. Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Play series. I really don't like my moss farm. Now don't get me wrong, for collecting bone meal, it's pretty awesome, but whenever I want to collect the actual moss blocks, what I've been doing is just blocking off these hoppers and then kind of just running back and forth here to pick up these items manually. So I figured today's first course of business should be to set up a moss farm just for collecting the moss and now new pale moss items. Alright, so as you can see, I finished up the moss farm. So this is two modules right here. One for regular moss and then one for pale moss. Basically, this is the exact same design as the bone meal farm below us. Basically, this center moss will get bone mealed, and then the sides will push in, and then all of them end up in this hopper system right here. One thing that's a little bit different between this and the bottom one is how I'm composting. As long as there's still bone meal in the system, it's actually going to lock this hopper right here pointing into the composter, and instead the items are going to be fed straight into our storage system, which, as you saw in the time lapse, I did have to move down. This is going to allow the system to just fuel itself. Alright, I'm here on my camera account. I'm going to turn this on in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so both sides are working. So you can see how the excess moss is getting deposited straight into our storage system in the side right here. And then that's just getting fed into these storage slices, which is the exact same as I showed off in the Guardian farm last episode. Basically, this is just a sorter attached to a shulker box item filler. And then all the final items will end up in these chests right here. Now that we have all the redstone and all the farming bits actually done, I think it's time that we can actually build a building around all of this so that it's not just out in the open. Alright, so that should be the completion of these two facades right here. Now, as you saw in the time-lapse, I did change some things as I was building. So, I raised the height of this roof right here, just so that when we extend it over here, we can actually cover up the farm. So previously it wasn't actually high enough. The roof itself here, I think I've used a gradient once again. This is the same kind that I've actually used over here on top of our lichen and honey wax farm. I've used some of the new prismarine blocks that we are getting from our Guardian farm, which we made last episode. Here for these windows over here, I just kind of want to make this some kind of shop or something. As you can see right here, it leads directly into the storage system of the moss farm. I used the pale moss here in this gradient. It's a little bit hard to see because of the booths, but this is where I would normally use tough. Tough and pale moss are actually pretty much almost the exact same color, so they're interchangeable. I think in the future I'm going to use pale moss pretty much exclusively though, because it is renewable very easily, and tough is not. Now, I think with that being said, we can work on the interior of this building on the right here first. I just do the walls, I said. Well, turns out I've done the entire interior. So basically, what I did in this room was I just put this shaggy carpet here. As you can see, I've kind of segregated the rooms now, just so that they're easier to work with. Put some paintings around, and most importantly, the biggest feature, this grandfather clock right here. Put a little twisting vine, actually, this is pale hanging moss, sorry, a pale hanging moss farm right here. Not the fastest thing in the world, but if we ever need some of this stuff, then we know where to get it. Coming over here to this room, there's this little landing area, some bookshelves here. These are just empty books. But then right here is our living room. There's the fireplace right here. I put a little fireplace poker and some pots and paintings as well. But then up here is actually the switch to turn on the farm. I think I've hid it pretty cleverly so that this looks like just a support that's holding up this little platform. Heading up here, there's another little living area right here. Some tables here with cake, and then some more bookshelves. But then in this room is the main bedroom. So as you can see, I have a work table right here, the actual bed area, more paintings, and even a little enchanting table. Then, of course, a jukebox, the best use for diamonds in the game. Heading up one more layer, this is the attic. So I've purposefully kept this a little bit more plain so that it's more accurate. But then right here, I'm actually going to put some armadillos. So we're going to have to wrangle these over from the savannah and then cage them in here. And they're going to be generating us some armadillo scoots. We should head over to the south now to try to wrangle up some of those armadillos. All right, I've just gone through the portal here to our mansion project because this is actually in a savannah. I was very close to one, so I think should have a good chance at finding some armadillos around here. But as I flew over these fair savanna plains, I never did find armadillos. I began killing everything in my sight to lower the passive mob count to make room for them to spawn, but they never did. The slaughter was eventually so terrible and my hands so deeply stained blood red, I had no choice but to fly to the brave new lands west, that I may escape the conscience of my sins. Oh my goodness. Here they are. I thought this was going to be a quick little task, you know, gather up some armadillos. How long will that take? It's been 30 minutes, dude. We're in new chunks, by the way. That's how far I had to come to find these guys. But, yeah, I think we can get them back to base now. Alright, and so with these guys safely in their little cage, I think we can work on the other building that we built earlier. This one right here. We can put the farm that we wanted to in here. Alright, so we're starting out here on the second floor, a little bit unusually this time. As you see, I've made this interesting bed right here. It's made out of pistons and carpets, so it's not a functional bed. This is kind of my first time building out one of these by hand. I think I really like how it turned out here. There's a nice cozy little fireplace, some mushrooms up here, and of course a bookshelf. Heading downstairs, this is actually the space in between the moss farm building right next door and the actual main area of this building, which is a dripstone farm. And this thing is ludicrously slow. I mean, this probably takes like an hour to produce a few items, so this is really going to be churning away in the background. And you know, who knows, maybe after a few years we might see a full double chest of dripstone. But anyways, the main challenge building this entire building was kind of just the spacing. Roughly over there, there's a little bit of redstone over here from the moss farm building that was in the way, and so I had to create this really weird stairway here that I've never kind of done before. And of course on this side we're hemmed in by the moss farm and above as well. That's also why on the second floor here I really took this diagonal roof approach, which I think is really interesting because it allows us to have this full window right here. But unfortunately we have one more fake window above it just because we don't have the space. Now that being said, I think this is a very successful building and we can, I think, move on. A little while back I actually did a little bit of archaeology and I managed to find a sniffer egg. I think the torch flowers and sniffer plants that these guys can dig up are probably the coolest plants in the game, and I really want to get my hands on them today. So what we're going to do is repurpose this really old pumpkin and melon farm and our main source of emeralds here into a full sniffer plant farm. Alright, so we have this big guy in here now collecting some awesome plants for us. In the future I might get more sniffers in here, but for now there's just this one guy. All of the items are ending up in here. I just bone mealed up some of the torch flowers from earlier, and I've actually thought of this really interesting decoration. So we can put this right here in a pot, and as you can see it's big enough to connect directly to the chain. So this is like a really interesting kind of hanging flower that we could have all over our bases now. So you probably see why I'm a really big fan of the sniffer and these new flowers. Now, having replaced my largest source of emeralds in my world with the sniffer farm, you might be wondering, Flapjack Pants, what are you going to do now? You have so many villagers, How are you going to trade with them now? Well, actually, I have a big plan. Right here in this area, we're going to set up a brand new pumpkin and melon farm along with potatoes and carrots. In terms of collection systems in my world here, I have a lot of these hopper minecart setups, like this one right under the Sniffer farm. But actually, for the sake of lag and just for trying something new, I actually want to set up an Allay-based collection system. Where are we supposed to find Allays? I think the easiest way to go about this is just going to be to fly around to a bunch of different villages, talk to a bunch of cartographers, and then buy all the different maps from them. And the reason we're not setting up some centralized cartographer location is just because they only ever sell you one type of map. So if you visit the same woodland mansion, which is what we're going to be doing, then they're just never going to offer anything new ever again. This guy right here is a cartographer already, so we're going to take some emeralds here. When is he going to refresh? All right, and so with these two, let's see where this takes us. And it looks like we're quite far away. Trial Explorer. Oh, we're actually right here next to one. So I'll keep this with me, but this is going to be where we're headed, and we're going to see if there's any Allays in this mansion. Alright, so I'm actually not too far away from the new city. This is actually surprisingly close by. I think if I reach the other side of this ocean, it shouldn't be awfully far from there. As you can see, I've come geared up the Wizzle for this. Got my sword out, my shield, and more golden apples than I should need. Oh man, I've been flying for a while, and this is the first outpost I've seen along the way here. And, oh, there's actually another one right there. That's interesting. Let's see if there's any... Doesn't appear to be any Allays in here. Nope, just this guy. And, in here? No, okay. Let's see this one then. I think, I'm about 6,000 blocks out from 0, 0. That one's empty... One's empty, and nope, no Allays. Are you kidding me? There's another outpost. Hold on. There's that one, and then there's that one. What are the chances of that? Any Allays in here? Nope, we're all empty. Oh man, there it is. It's been about 10,000 blocks, so that's 10 kilometers. Not super far when you put it that way, but I've been flying for a good while. Let's get started on this thing. What? Round 2, baby. Round 3. Oh my god. Okay, they're actually here. Holy shit. Well, that took a little bit longer than expected, but without further ado, let's get started on actually building that farm. Okay, so as you can see here, we have our pumpkin and melon and carrot and potato farm all set up here. I'm using for this a modified version of an mango design from a few years ago that I think is still the best. And the carrots and potatoes are just 9x9 farming cubes. As you can see, because I'm using Allays, it's put together much more densely than I would be able to with hopper minecarts, because we don't need that extra layer for the track to run on. Hopping into my camera account right now, you can see in here, yep, the Allays are just kind of flying through this chamber here where they can access all of the different layers. And then every once in a while, these note blocks get ticked, which should draw the Allay's attention, and then they come up here and then deposit all of their stuff. And then this is happening for pumpkins as well. Let me try to find this guy. Yep, right here. As you can see, there's that little blue wave, which indicates that they're being linked to the note block. And then that's also right here with the carrots and potatoes. So I have some farmer villagers here to help harvest and replant the crops. Unfortunately, these guys will only work during a small part of the day. So it's not super efficient AFK-wise, because this part isn't always going to be running. But as long as we're sleeping fairly often, this should be chugging around in the background. Potatoes are here too. And then as you can see, all of the items, no matter what they are, they get funneled down into these little pools here, where they're dragged into these shulker box filler designs. And then right here for the melons, it's a little bit more complicated because we have to get them to craft into full melon blocks. I've been AFK for a little bit now, but if we just take a peek here, yep, we have a decent amount of potatoes that have already been generated. Put that back. I've gone around the base and done a little bit of cleaning. I found a few more shulker boxes of pumpkins and melons, so I've just put those back in here, but I don't think these have filled up a full shulker box yet, although this one is actually really close, so I'm going to put that back. But as you can see right now, this farm is a little bit of an eyesore, so without further ado, let's get started on the exterior building around it. So as you can see, I've finished up this front gate here along with the actual building that covers up our farm. I want to talk about this gate first. Now, I know I said earlier this episode that we wouldn't be using tough anymore in favor of pale moss, but just because I've done the rest of the wall here using tough, I just figured it'd be a little bit strange if we just transitioned into using a totally different palette. So we're gonna keep using tough. I actually had to go down into our mines to gather some more, but we're gonna keep using tough for the entire wall. Everywhere else, I'm gonna try to use pale moss, guys. You can trust me. As you can see on our building here, we have pale moss where I would have in the past used tough. Anyways, back to this gate. I'm a little bit conflicted about whether we keep these black guards here. You can see it more clearly on this side facing the sea. Yeah, right here. At this Y level, I just have these going across. So not having them here would be a little bit weird, but I feel like while you're on this sidewalk staring here, there's a lot of colors going on here. There's a lot of gray and then this kind of like pinkish color and then the wood, and it's a little bit confusing, but you know, we'll revisit this in the future if we don't like it. But other than that, I think I did really good on the gate itself using these dripstones for like the pointy little bits. The gate is a little bit low, you know, you might imagine bigger ships coming through, but then you have to realize our bridge is also very low. So if we ever do like an arched bridge to allow for slightly bigger ships, then maybe I'll raise this, but at this point I think it's about appropriate. Anyways, on to the building itself. I actually really like how I use these warped roots here on top of moss here to kind of create these really interesting hedges. These textures are unlike any other plant in the game. I think these are one of my favorite, along with the sniffer plants, that really kind of have like an otherworldly feeling to them. But this building itself is more complex in shape than I would usually do. It's kind of like a weird like a really bumpy shape. But I do like how it turned out in the end. There's some tricks that I've used here, like using the trapdoors, the walls, and the stairs to create this kind of smaller arch. Instead of it being 2 blocks wide, it's only 1. And with the new pale oak trapdoors, this actually works out even better, because if we didn't have it, it'd be slightly fatter on the left side, and so this kind of makes it a little bit more symmetrical. It's still not perfect, but it's very good. One thing that I think I did really well, was the roof here. You can see this gradient that I use going from the really, really light pink wood here into some pink glazed terracotta, pink wool, and then stripped cherry wood down here, and at the very bottom, magenta terracotta. I think in terms of roof gradients, I'm finally starting to figure it out. This is something I've been working on for a long time, but I think it really shows like where the light is hitting, and some of the places that are really in the shadows, like this bottom here. Another thing I did slightly differently was using fence gates here for these trims along the walls. I know it looks a little bit weird when you're walking down the level here on this road, but from this side, it's actually really, really good. Usually for this effect, I would use fences, like here, but because we're supposed to view this from further away on this side of the river, using fence gates allows them to be rendered from further away. Because if we come back over here and we look at this building, you see those signs just disappear. You have to be like this close. Unfortunately, there's no way to change this in the game right now. It's hard-coded to only render in at 64 blocks away, but using fence gates allows us to kind of cheat that. I guess I should talk about next what this building is actually for lore-wise. So as you can see, there's 2 flags here. This is kind of like the naval flag of our new city. This one right here is the flag of the Southern Canal Corporation. So that's kind of what this building is supposed to be. It's for the Southern Canal Corporation, where they hold all of their offices and where they make all of their money. This is all in collaboration with the national government, the flag up there. This is all for the Kingdom of Sussland. That being said, though, this building is not yet complete. There's still this entire area we have to fill in, including a little hallway we're going to put here. As you might have seen in the time lapse, I haven't filled in these windows with black wool like I did with these ones, and that's just because I know I'm going to actually have stuff in here and we don't need fake windows. So I guess without any further ado, let's get started on actually putting this interior together. Okay, so as you just saw in the time-lapse, we fully finished up the interior along with our trading hall right here. So this, just like the cleric house, is 24 villagers, except all of these guys are farmer villagers. As you saw in the time-lapse, I did have to roll through these guys a few times because I needed these guys to have the potato and carrot trade along with the pumpkin and melon trade. It's pretty rare that they'll have carrots and potatoes, but because that's like a first level novice trade, we can just keep re-rolling. However, there's a 1 in 3 chance that they don't have the pumpkin trade, and that's detrimental to our supply of emeralds. And so people who didn't have the pumpkin trade, well, they kind of had to die. And that being said, now that we have 24 villagers, we can basically have a non-stop stream of emeralds if we just take some pumpkins, take some melons, just go up to these guys. As you can see, the price has raised quite a lot because I've bought so much from these guys. Of course, right here in the middle, this is our storage area. We can put some of our stuff back. I just have some of these shulkers out here for convenience, but they're actually stored down here when they get entered into the farm. There's potatoes and carrots as well. About the decorations here, even though this is unweathered copper right now, eventually it's going to fully oxidize, kind of like this section here is starting to, and then it's going to be a nice teal color, which I think should blend very nicely with the floor here and the colors I've decided to use for some of these walls. Now, into the general lobby first. This is one of the more plain rooms in this building. It's kind of not much to it. I wanted to put a map here of our entire Grand Southern Canal, but to be honest, there's not much to it right now, so I haven't done that yet. But maybe in the future we'll revisit that part. The floor here is made out of smithing tables, which, you know, I actually quite like the look of. But it is a little bit annoying to fly in here and like click open the door, because sometimes you end up clicking on the tables. It's a little bit annoying, but potentially in the future we could use this a little bit more. Heading upstairs, in contrast with the floor below, this is like one of the office rooms for the Grand Southern Canal Corporation, and it is a very garishly decorated room. Like, things are all over the place on the walls, but I think it creates a very lively atmosphere. It's very interesting, and I quite like it. Here on this wall, there's some windows that I put that you can actually look into all of the farms, which I felt was a pretty important thing to have. You can see the pumpkins and the melons being gathered and the villagers working. Sometimes you might even see Allays pop in through here, and that's just really nice. Up this staircase is kind of an area I didn't really know what to do with. I was thinking of using this potentially for more farms, but I just settled on some random stuff. So this is like kind of like the office of the CEO. If medieval corporations did indeed have the, I don't think they did, but this is like a big main office. I don't really quite like this table with the amount of birch trapdoors here. It's very weird, but you know, you can think of it as like a bunch of different sheets of paper laid all over the place. You know, CEO has a lot of work to do, of course. You know how CEOs are. There's that, and there's also this bookshelf here. And similar to in the Guardian farm, I've used this little banister system to hold up the roof. And there's real windows here too. Now these two buildings are just purely for storage because I was too lazy to build more office rooms. There's not much to it, just a bunch of barrels that are empty. This room, I just completely ran out of ideas at this point, so I put in a little weird living room here. This is like a really modern office building with like a lounge area, but that's kind of what this is morphed into. There's like a sofa here, some tables and chairs. To be honest, I plan on completely tearing down this room in the future and indeed putting a farm in here if we ever needed it. But just for now, just so that we don't have any empty real estate, this is what I put. Now, if we head back outside, there's actually a few minor changes that I made. I actually took away the campfires from these smokestacks from our starter smelter, just because from almost every angle in the city, this area just looked really chaotic with all the smoke going out, and then this building in the background, it still looks very chaotic. And so I might just remove these smokestacks completely. And that kind of takes away from the industrial design of the smelter. So I'm really conflicted on this, but for now, this is just kind of like the in-between decision I came to. I also added some chimneys here to the roof. It started with just the fireplace in the lounge area, but then also I added one on this side as well. Now, with not much time left, I think it's time we can wrap up today's episode. So we've done a ton of mob wrangling today. I think that's kind of my biggest thing that I've learned. Of course, we got those armadillos here in our new moss farm, and we put the dripstone farm next to it. Let's see how much dripstone we have. A stack and 14. So I've been here for about 10 or so hours, maybe, all added together. We have a stack and 14 dripstone. This is going to take absolute ages to fill out. And then, of course, the 24 plus villagers that are in here, because I did have to kill a few of them. Using the new trick where you pull around boats with a lead has been pretty game-changing for today's episode. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you enjoyed it, then be sure to let me know in the comments. Hit like and subscribe. I've been Flapjack Pants. Goodbye.